Okay, we're back at it again. We're going to be cleaning up the edges of the scarf joints, and there's been a little delay, and you can see it's cold still, but not as cold as it was last week in Seattle. We had down into the teens, which is unheard of at this time of year. We're going to break out the little low angle plane. I just got done honing the blade. I use some 600 and some 1500 grit emery paper, and I lay it down on the table of my bandsaw or my table saw, but it's covered up with junk, boat junk. And then I got a little guide I put it into and just drag it back until I hone the edge. So we're going to clean up the edges. We're going to, I have a technique where I use fiberglass cloth, just scraps left over from other boats to strengthen up the hull, or the scarf joints. And then on the inside I've got some 6-ounce I'm going to use, and then on the outside I'm going to use some lighter weight 4-ounce that doesn't show up as much because the outside will fare in quite a bit more than, well, I fare out the outside seams, but the inside I usually don't, just giving them a sand. So I've already planed this one, but it's basically you're just kind of going along, light pressure, nothing heavy, just to clean up the edges, and then check with the float. And this one's got a steel edge on one side. I'm happy. Got some epoxy there. Okay, the other thing I'm going to do now is take my rafter square, the 2-inch side. I'm going to line it up along the crack here, and I'm going to make a mark on either side of that joint, 2 inches out. Already got my marks around in here to where I will cut it off, and then I'm going to take some blue tape, and I'm going to line on the outside of that spot. Don't do too far ahead of time to where if you get delayed, vacations or whatever, sickness, where you don't come back, don't let the tape get so long that it's going to sit there and stick permanently. Okay, I got all my pieces of scrap 6-ounce fiberglass cut out, some old cloth I had left over from other boats, and I've got it laid over the top of the joint. I have in the past gone in and done some fancy work filling on any low spots, and I found that the epoxy tends to settle into the low spots anyway, and it will get an extra coat of epoxy when you do the boat. So there'll be the initial wet out coat, and I'll come back and probably, well, I'll wet it out when I get it in the boat, or the weave fill, not the wet out. I'll wet it out now. So now let me go ahead and get some epoxy. I got brand new brush and ready to go, and we'll get some epoxy and do this. Okay, we've done a lot of stirring. Make sure you stir the sides and the bottom and the stick and get it off in a good minute and a half. And I got 1.5 ounces, 1 ounce of A and then 1/2 ounce of part B. So just pour it on, and then just start moving it around. Actually, stop for a second and get my scraper. Okay, this works much better for moving the epoxy around doing this stuff. And I think I need to sand my edge down. Yeah. Okay, now we've got a cure. It's not as fast as I'd like, but because of the temperature being so low, but now we take a sharp utility knife, or a good X-Acto knife, or whatever's really sharp, and just cut along the inside of the inside edge of the blue tape and down over the side, and then peel back the tape, and there you go. You'll do that to all the edges. I could have done that along one of these lines in here, because these areas where the lines are will be covered up with the 2-inch and the 3-inch tape. Okay, I got the other side done and I flipped them over, so I've got the mirror image of all the inside seams of all 4 panels. And I've also, this time, I've added some other masking tape besides my blue masking tape along the edges here that I'll be able to trim. I was having some problems yesterday that I'd forgotten about when I was cutting. Anything that was over that line, you've got to come back in with the scissors, and it was pulling around. So this time I'm going to do it with tape on all 4 sides, and then when I lift it up, the whole piece will come up at once. Okay, I've got my 1.5 ounces of epoxy mixed up, and I made sure I cleaned off any crud left over from the last time, which I didn't do when I started out on that last segment there. And also make certain that on any metal tool or plastic tool even that you use, that you round the corners of the tool over, so as you're dragging along you don't dig an edge and create a hole in the fabric. So let's go ahead and start doing a wet out here of this first one. Just kind of hold it down on the sides and just gently work it around. Remember, you want to keep it to the inside of the blue tape, not waste a lot of excess epoxy on stuff that's going to get pulled up again. And you can see how it's wetting out. You have some excess, take it over to your next. Loosen that back. Just a little bit more. Be careful when you're putting this on that you don't have too much, because with a good scraper you can really get a good wet out. Okay, I've got all 4 of them wetted out now, and we'll go ahead and let it cure partially till it's tacky. The glass is pretty well stuck to the plywood, but it's still pliable, and I call that the green state, when the epoxy turns green. And I'll come back in about, probably at this temperature, probably in about 2 hours. Okay, we're going to pull off this amount of tape. It's not as cured as I would like it, but it's good enough for our purpose. And just push back down any little bits of glass that want to come up along the edges. And there we go. I'll go ahead and do that for the other side, and there's not much more to look at that. You don't necessarily have to go to the very edges, because they'll be covered up with fillets and 2 layers of glass tape. That's it for this part.